some old clones, and then some new clones. Let's talk about first impressions today, guys. Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope that all of you are doing well. It's time for your daily dose of some fragrance content, and this time around it's time for some first impression video. Now today, as I said in the beginning, I have 4 clone fragrances that I'm going to share with you my first impressions about. 2 of them are not that new to the markets. They've been around for a few months now, and they come from the brands of Rayhaan and Khadlaj. The Rayhaan one is called Elixir, and it's a clone of Elixir. The Khadlaj one is called Gaith, and that one is sort of a cloning or twisting the scent profile of Dior Sauvage Elixir. And the brand new ones are from French Avenue. This one is called Ighwa, and it's yet another clone of YSL Tuxedo. And the last one comes from the brand of Paris Corner. It's called Voux Patisserie, and this one is a clone of Xerjoff's Italica. So I'm going to share with you my first impressions. I've been wearing those 4 fragrances in the past 2 days. I've given one wearing for each and every one of them. So today I'm going to share my initial thoughts on all 4. The first fragrance that I'm going to talk about today will be Voux Patisserie from Paris Corner, simply because this is the most feminine scent in here, just like the original fragrance that it's been inspired by. A few quick words about the packaging and the bottle design. Actually, this feels really nice in hand. It has this sort of a velvety covering on top of the actual glass. The cap is metallic, the bottle has nice heft, and all around this feels really nice to be held in hand. Definitely Paris Corner have done a good job with the bottle design. But the scent itself, as I said, it's a very feminine scent, but actually I really enjoy the opening of this fragrance. The opening is very gourmand, very sweet, and to my nose has a very strong coffee note, but it's not like an espresso note, it feels like a latte. You get a bit of the espresso feel of it, but you also get a bit of the milkiness and the sweetness from the milk that usually goes into making a coffee, a latte type of coffee. There's a strong almond note as well in here, which feels sweet. It doesn't feel bitter or anything like that. Maybe there's a hint of spiciness in the opening, and also quite a bit of a vanillic sweetness as well. And again, I really enjoy the first maybe about 5 to 10 minutes of the life of this fragrance because of that latte note. It's really nice. But after those initial 10 minutes, this actually starts to become more and more lactonic, more and more milky, and that ruins a little bit the scent profile, at least personally for me. I'm not a huge fan of the lactonic notes in fragrances, and here with Voux Patisserie it's actually quite strong, and especially in the mid dry down, this is the dominating note, and that ruins the fragrance for me personally. When the fragrance goes into the deeper dry down, some of the strength of that lactonic note goes away, and it becomes a little bit more vanillic scent, maybe with a hint of sandalwood somewhere in the background, making it a little bit more tolerable at that point. But really the mid dry down is where I don't like Voux Patisserie. So keep in mind that you probably need to like lactonic based fragrances in order to enjoy this one. But I really like the opening of this fragrance. I'm not going to talk too much about performance because, as I've said, I've only given the 4 fragrances featured today, only one wearing. So this one lasted over 7 hours from my initial wearing, but again, keep in mind that those are initial figures, so I'm not going to focus too much about performance when it comes to any of them. Price wise, I paid about 30 euros, slightly less than 30 euros to get the Voux Patisserie. The next fragrance that I'm going to talk about will be a Gaith from the brand of Khadlaj. The fragrance comes packaged in this blue colored box that has quite a bit of heft. You get some golden accents in here. The cap of the fragrance is metallic actually, and it's also quite heavy. And the fragrance itself is heavily inspired by Dior Sauvage Elixir, but it doesn't feel like a straight up clone of Elixir itself. This feels like a mix between Lattafa Assad and Elixir. The opening to my nose is spicier than Lattafa Assad, but a lot less spicy compared to Sauvage Elixir itself. It lacks the pepperness of Sauvage Elixir, it lacks the strong licorice note from Sauvage Elixir, and the only way that this feels equal spicy wise compared to Elixir is with the very strong cinnamon note probably stronger than Sauvage Elixir itself. On the dry down, this becomes way sweeter, it becomes way more vanillic compared to Sauvage Elixir, and maybe even a little bit sweeter than Latafa Assad itself. All around, it's an interesting, softer, sweeter take on Sauvage Elixir, on the scent of Sauvage Elixir. I'm not too sure how many clones of Sauvage Elixir we need at this point, but this again is an interesting take. In my first wearing, this gave me about 8 hours of performance, so it's quite strong, pretty much on par from with what I get out of Latafa Assad. But again, keep in mind that those figures, those performance figures, are just first impressions. All around, Gaith is actually an interesting take of Sauvage Elixir, and especially for those people who get overwhelmed a little bit by the spiciness of Sauvage Elixir. This can be an easier, softer wear compared to the original set. The next one that I'm going to talk about will be Ighwa from the brand of French Avenue. This fragrance comes really nicely packaged. It's a little bit more expensive, but again, especially when it comes to the presentation and the packaging, this is super luxurious. It comes in a huge box. The bottle is nice, heavy, has really good quality. The cap is plastic, it's a snug fit. All around, very lavish presentation when it comes to the brand of French Avenue and Fragrance World. As I said, this fragrance is heavily inspired by YSL Tuxedo. Now again, I have to ask the question, how many clones of Tuxedo we need at this point? I'm not too sure, especially given the fact that Fragrance World already have a clone that's sold under Fragrance World, and it's called Suits, and it's quite a decent clone of Tuxedo. Now, Ighwa comes from French Avenue and definitely has higher quality compared to Suits. It's very similar to the original fragrance, and in fact, I'm currently wearing this one, so I can talk a little bit about the scent itself. This feels like a slightly less spicy version of Tuxedo, as you've sliced off a little bit of the spiciness in the opening. Other than that, quite close to Tuxedo. You still get some of the spices, quite a lot of the spices. You get the patchouli note, you get the rose note, you get the vanillic sweetness, the earthiness of the original fragrance. All around, it's done very nicely. The scent itself has superb quality. Performance-wise, I cannot talk about performance because I've been wearing this for the past few hours, but so far seems to be having quite a decent performance. And this again feels maybe like a slight twist. To my nose, this feels like a mix between Tuxedo itself and Rojas Moustache EDP, like a slightly softer version of Tuxedo. Ighwa is a very impressive fragrance when it comes to the whole quality. When we talk about the packaging, the detailing, when we talk about the presentation, the bottle design, and when we talk about the scent itself. No harshness, no alcohol blast, no synthetic feel, nothing. Really high quality, but then again, this is quite pricey. One of the brand new releases from French Avenue, and this, at least around here in Europe, tends to cost somewhere around about the 65 euro mark. Still a fraction of the price of the original, but those clones, especially from French Avenue, are becoming more and more expensive, something that I don't necessarily like. And the last fragrance that I'm going to talk about today will be Rayhaan Elixir. Now, this is a clone of Jean-Paul Gaultier's Le Male Elixir. Absolutely fantastic original fragrance, and Rayhaan's presentation again looks really nice. Quite a flashy looking bottle that shares pretty similar bottle design to all the other members, all the other Rayhaan fragrances, but this one having this sort of a plastic sleeve that looks very goldenish, very flashy, just like the original fragrance feels. Cap is plastic, it's a snug fit, and all around the packaging and the presentation is quite interesting. The scent itself, it's very similar to Le Male Elixir. Again, I'm wearing this for the first time today, and I can tell you that this feels a little bit less intensive compared to the original fragrance. It feels slightly less sweet compared to Le Male Elixir. In the opening, feels a little bit more spicy compared to Le Male Elixir, but definitely carries a strong the strong backbone, the strong DNA of the whole Le Male line, with the vanillic sweetness, with the cardamom, and all those things that the original line is known for. At least the quality of my initial impression seems to be quite nice, and all around this seems to be a very good alternative to Le Male Elixir. Again, I'm not going to talk about performance because I'm just wearing this for the first time today, But scent-wise, this will get you very close, and it seems, at least from my initial impressions, to also have quite decent performance, and is definitely a good option for those of you who are looking for a clone of Rayhaan Elixir. Price-wise, I paid about 30 euros to get it, which is an okay deal in my opinion, because the original is still hard to find at discounters and tend to cost quite a bit of money, so this is like a quarter of the price of the original. So guys, this was all for today's video, where I shared with you my initial impressions on 4 new and not so new clones from Rayhaan, from Khadlaj, from French Avenue and from Paris Corner. I hope that you found this video interesting to watch. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.